All right, we'll call this meeting to order, and we'll start with roll call.
Senator Cooper,
Here.
Senator Landon,
Here.
Representative Ottman,
Here.
Representative Provenza,
Here.
Co-Chairman Williams, Chairman Crago. You have a quorum.
All right, thank you. I think we'll get started with this hefty agenda and look at Bill Draft 26 LSO 157, which is our 2026 large project funding bill. And we'll turn it over to the director first to sort of walk us through the bill and the projects, and then any last minute details Talise will, with LSO, will give us those. So Director, the floor is yours.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Appreciate, as always, the partnership that we've developed with the legislature and this process. I did hand out, if you didn't get one, we'll get you one, the entire list of everything that the board looked at this year. There were 75, I think, total projects that they considered. There are a handful here, as you can see, that met the large project threshold. And we can go through those. You want to pull that PowerPoint up, we walk through. They should be in the same order as the bill, so we can walk through and describe each one, talk a little bit about what they do, and then certainly any questions, be happy to answer them. Oh, for the record, Bob Budd, Director, Wyoming Wildlife Natural Resource Trust. My entire staff is with me. Hillary Wasserberger, the grants manager, is here as well. So. You ready, Heather? So the first project is a continuation of the Upper Grable Fish Passage project. We've been working in that area now for probably 5 to 6 years. This includes a variety of different treatments, fish ladders, irrigation infrastructure. Some of you will recall Senator Cooper and I think and Senator Crago, and all three of you will remember the tour we did in Bighorn County or Hot Springs County 3 years ago. We went and looked at a couple of these different fish ladders and some of the other stuff there. This one is a very comprehensive project. This is the completion of it. It includes areas where they've put in structures to prohibit fish from getting up into spawning areas for native fish, but it also includes areas where they've let fish passage include non-native fish. We're working really hard to find a balance between the two objectives. It has included diversion infrastructure. In one case, 4 different diversions were taken out and replaced with one, and a bypass for fish was put on that structure. There are culverts and other things that you can see on the next page. That big culvert there on Timber Creek, that was a culvert that was perched up above and the fish couldn't get through it. This is a bottomless arch. There's a lot of that work that's been done. It started, as I said, this is the completion. The one thing that will be a little confusing, and it always is that it shows that the total grant is 150, but the total that all has been spent is 1.3 million. So the way that happens is they came to us in the spring and asked for 300,000 to finish it. That made it a large project and they needed to get work done this summer. So they got half of that to do what they could this summer. The remaining half the board approved in December. That brought it over the threshold, so it comes back as a large project. Any questions on that one? I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions?
Okay.
Senator Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director, this is the project up on the Pitchfork, is that correct?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Cooper, this portion of it is on the Pitchfork, yes. There have been other portions on different places, but this is the completing one is on the Pitchfork.
Follow up?
Yep.
Okay.
Please proceed.
Next
Director.
project is Baggs Valley Headwaters. This is the 5th phase. As with a lot of these large projects, when we get to the point where we're into phase 3, 4, 5, they've rolled out a lot of them. This one started, I think, with a grant of $250,000, phase 1. The neighbors looked over and went, we want a little bit of that as well. And all of a sudden you're treating massive landscapes. As you can see with this one, it's a Little Snake River Conservation District project. The next page will show you that it's a treatment primarily. And if you look at the photos there's two of the different things. The one on the upper photo is aspen that's been cut that was decadent. If you cut it, it'll trigger suckering and get those aspen stands back. The lower one is a juniper treatment in sage grouse habitat, where they go in and masticate the junipers, which removes the perch site for predators, opens up that habitat for grouse. It's almost an instant gratification situation. Once those trees are gone, the birds move in and you'll see pretty significant changes in populations. Like the other, this is one that has been ongoing. It is $700,000 for this phase of it. And that one is a little bit more discreet, but they're 2.148 million is the total for all that's been granted to this project. So if you'll recall, this was in last year's large project bill, phase 4, and that was 750. This is another 700.
Any questions for the director on that particular project? All right, please.
Senator Landon.
Oh, Senator Landon.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. And Director, we've worked on this part of the world for quite some time. I was just curious, I see where it involves all sorts of land. How much of this is private land that is being affected by the total of this work down there?
Director.
Mr. Chairman, Senator, that's a good question. Thank you. The bulk of this is on private land. BLM will participate in some of that I mentioned, the sagebrush treatments. Those tend to be about a 50-50 split. The work that the Forest Service has done in the past, that was way earlier phases. So that came in under a different project. But most of this is on private and state land. Yeah, it's right down on that state line, and then that area working both east and west to Baggs. So pretty massive landscape.
Follow up, Senator.
Thank you, Director. And Mr. Chairman, I was curious just because, you certainly hope that the Forest Service and the BLM comes along with us, and they normally have. The Director and his crew do a great job on that front, but just hopeful that everybody's pulling in the same direction.
Mr. Chairman, I can assure you that they are down there. That's a very tight-knit community, and they've been doing this a long time. And you can see they're listed in that partnership, that long list of partners there. But they're all on board, and it goes relatively seamlessly. They've got their NEPA done. You can bounce across one to the other and do landscapes instead of pieces of landscapes, which I think is the way we'd like to see things done.
Yeah, that's good news. Thank you, Director.
Please proceed, Director.
The third project is the Absaroka Front cheatgrass. The governor and I had an opportunity this summer to go up and do a tour with these folks, and the landowners up there, McCarty's, and then J.D. Radakovich, who manages the Hoodoo, stood on a hillside and pointed to where their property lines were, and it was stunning because you could see it just as clear as day where that had been treated and where it was not treated. And that wasn't a resistance from the other landowners. They just ran out of money and time. So this continues that effort. We also have allocated fire funds up there for the fire that occurred east of the highway. They're in process of doing that. You all know, I don't have to tell you what the risk of cheatgrass is. It's massive. And I just saw today there was an article in one of the news outlets about it. but it's again, a continuation. We'll probably see this come back. It's about what they can handle. It's 395,000. That wouldn't normally meet the threshold, but because they had been funded one other time, this one is a large project, so.
Director, just future planning, thinking, down the road, next year, the year after that. I mean, is this one of those projects that we'll probably see for the foreseeable future? Or do you think we'll get to a point where we'll get it taken care of at least for a while? What's your prognosis on that?
Mr. Chairman, I think as with most of these, it will be an ongoing effort. And what will happen, if I'm not mistaken, in the basin is you've got a couple of footholds there. Park County has taken this very seriously. Bighorn County will get on board. Bighorn County, we've done a little bit of work, but it's been kind of, let's see if it works type of stuff. Hot Springs County has been fairly aggressive. Washakie County, I think you'll see I hope that what we'll see is a concerted effort by all of those weed and pest districts to do what's been done in western Wyoming and the northeast part of the state, to where it just becomes a collaborative effort, and then you go where you're needed the most. So we're not going to be done with this in any short term. And if you look at the normal efficacy of the chemical, you're probably looking at retreatment within 4 or 5 years on most of these. Some of them you may not need to. The treatment that we looked at this summer, there's a pretty good chance, given the aggressive management of those landowners, there's a pretty good chance that that'll be a matter of spot spraying on a four-wheeler. But to do the initial treatments, it's just what you can handle in any given time. And as you know, we motivated and mobilized a whole lot up there in northeast Wyoming. That was a monumental effort. I mean, all those people working together, and you had helicopters flying every day for 2 months. And that's what it will probably take here, is just that collaboration, which drives your price down and makes your effectiveness that much greater.
Senator?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Director, on these weed and pest districts involved in this one is Park, and it's what, South Dakota, west of the highway? Is that where this lies?
Mr. Chairman, that's correct.
Okay. As we get down into Hot Springs or Bighorn, Washakie, where these weed and pest districts are really getting hit hard on the property tax deal, is that going to affect their ability to help us with this, or how is that going to affect these projects?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Cooper, the one thing I can tell you immediately is that it will increase the amount they ask for from us, because their mill levies now will, if they can keep their employees and their vehicles running with what that reduction in their mill levy is, that's probably about what they're going to be able to do. And so I don't think you're going to see them able to cost share to the level that they have in the past. Now, some of them are going to be able to qualify for federal programs. BLM has stepped up to pay their share on most of this. But again, that's paying for chemical and airtime. That doesn't help them with their own capacity issues. And that's where it's going to hurt a great deal.
Anything online? All right, please proceed, Director.
The next one is a Cody Canal fish screen. This is a daunting project, to say the least. The entirety of the South Fork can come out at one head gate. And South Fork is a big river. The number of fish lost and entrained in this location, you can see it on the next slide, but they've gone in and looked at how many fish are entrained in that canal. And obviously it's basically the whole river. So as many as 42,000 native fish per year, that's a lot of fish. And even more if you add all the other, and then the total trout would include brown trout and rainbows. That's another 18,000, I think it is. And those fish are lost to the system. That is a minor consideration if you consider that under the Endangered Species Act, that does meet one of the criteria for listing. Some of these are Yellowstone cutthroats. The other species, the other native species, are species that tend to be lower population levels and live in one location. So it is ecologically a very important project. It's massively expensive. Pidge Fulton and I did this site visit. We did not feel that their original ask, which was 1.6 million, was something that we could do, but felt like getting halfway there, that would give them what they needed to go to other entities, Fish Passage, Trout Unlimited, others, including the irrigation districts and those who have skin in the game, and get this done. But it's a massive drum system that would sit in the canal and then cycle those fish back into the river. We've done some of these smaller scale, nothing like this, not on a major river. So that's the purpose of the project and the scope of it.
Senator Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director, on these, this bigger screen, has this been utilized in other areas outside of Wyoming, this type of screen, or is this a one-off deal?
Mr. Chairman,
Director.
Senator Cooper, it has been used. I don't know where it's been used at this level. We have several of these in Wyoming. There are some in western Wyoming. This one is a set of 4 of those. So most of them are 1 drum. This one is 4 because of the capacity. It has to handle 275 CFS. That's huge. So I would guess probably that this has been done, I mean, because the technology and the parts exist. Probably you're looking at on the Columbia River, some of those western United States rivers with salmon, you've probably got this massive deal. But when they contacted the manufacturer, they said, yeah, we can do it. It was not a shock to them. I think it was just a shock to Pidge and I.
Director, on the matching funds, do we know if they've been able to get any of that, or if they made any headway on the other half that they requested from us?
Mr. Chairman, I haven't talked to them. They just found out here a month ago that they've been funded. So, and I will give it to Laura Burkhart, who is the Game and Fish employee who works on this. She does a tremendous job. They'll go beat the bushes and figure a way to get it done. It just may take a little longer for them to get all of that in hand, but this 800 should get them going this year. And that's the part that I think what we're paying for is the drum, the screen, not the dirt work and other things. And so some of that they may be able to make some of that up.
Representative Provenza?
No, Representative Ottman has her hand up.
Oh, Representative Ottman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Representative Provenza, Director Budd. Just for a second, I'm not familiar with entrainment in the irrigation systems and how this is going to work to cycle them around. When you say that there's 43,000 fish lost annually, is that because they're going down the canals into the sprinklers, or how, what is the process of that? If you could just give it to me in a short example, I'd appreciate it.
Director?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Ottman, as you'll recall, I managed the Winchester Ranch up at Crowheart for a number of years, and we had the same issue there. Entrainment is where there's nothing to stop the fish from getting into an irrigation canal, whether it's a small one or a large one. And then at the end of the season, when the water's turned off or when you start to hay, those fish are just trapped. And you see it in the Wyoming Canal where you live. A lot of cases, they go in and try to get those fish and net them and put them back. That's not really efficient. That is how they came up with the numbers, however. That was done by tagging fish and then going in when the canal was turned off and seeing how many they got in a given segment of that area. But those fish are basically lost to the system. one member of my board said the only downside of this would be there are a lot of kids who fish that canal that are going to be disappointed. But the way it works is the fish never get into the canal. In this case, they'll be screened in a drum and returned. So the drum, the fish swim in, the water goes outside, and then they go through the drum and back into the main course of the river. And there are multiple designs that do this. There are some where the water drops down, the fish go out the side. This one is just designed for that big canal. Did that help, Representative Ottman?
Yes, Director, it did. Thank you.
Any further questions from the committee on this particular project? All right, Director.
The next one is North Platte cheatgrass. This one is a little bit different than most of the ones that we've been used to seeing because it is going to be in that river corridor. There is a real concern about losing the gallery forests, the cottonwood forests along the North Platte. We're seeing those age out and not necessarily get recruited back in. That's true of many of our drainages. Cottonwoods live and die based on flooding. And so as we control more and more the amount of water in some of these large rivers and don't have the flooding and out of bank events, your cottonwoods get old, and when they get old, they fall over and die. And so that coupled with cheatgrass down there on those riparian areas, the risk of fire is astronomical. And in this case, there's a big human risk because there are a lot of people who have built houses in that interface. So this one's a little bit different than the others where we're normally looking at native rangeland, but still a merit based, and the board felt like it's one that should be moved forward. Now, I will tell you that these all these cheatgrass ones are incumbent on us receiving cheatgrass funding that we did not get last year when the supplemental budget got stranded. So until we know that we have that available, these will exceed our ability to fund them without that supplemental funding. So the contracts won't be written until we know what happens at the end of the session. But to not put them in the bill would have put them 2 years away from any action. So they're in here to be approved, but as always, it's contingent on funding.
Questions from the committee? I have one. Where exactly in Natrona County is this going to take place?
Mr. Chairman, it's north and east of Casper.
Thank you. Senator Landon, did you have a question or?
Well, Mr. Chairman, you just asked it, and so I appreciate that. And the director gave me some acclamation there. I assume that means that it's between here and Glen Rock, between Casper and Glen Rock.
Mr. Chairman, that's correct.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Director. Any other questions on that particular project? If not, we'll move on to the next one.
Mr. Chairman, the final project is the Western Wyoming cheatgrass project. This has been ongoing for a number of years. They've done tremendous work, and knock on wood, I pointed this out to joint appropriations, that if you looked at the fire frequency that we had in areas where they've been treating for a number of years last year, that was 0. And if you look at where we have not treated, it was significantly different. So this one, they started this in Sublette County. Teton County was next to jump on board. We've funded all these phases of it. Then Lincoln County. Last year, that funding moved into Uinta and Western Sweetwater County. This funding will go back into to finish Uinta, and the rest will be in Sweetwater. So it's very well thought out. It's another collaborative effort. They've done a tremendous job getting other resources and leveraging this. And it won't finish it, but it will have made that complete circle on all of those counties over there west of the divide.
So the director, that says that our sponsor on this is Teton County Weed and Pest.
Yeah.
Is that right? Even though they're working with all the other counties?
Mr. Chairman, thank you for bringing that up. That is correct. The earlier phases were sublet weed and pest, then Teton did their own thing. Then as they continued to work together and meet together, they said, who's got the capacity to do this best? And Teton said, we can do it. Erica up there said that we're happy to administer it. They passed the money through to the appropriate weed and pest districts. This is exactly the model we used with the fires in northern Wyoming. The applicant for the Northeast Wyoming Invasive Grass Working Group, Sheridan County is administering that. The fire, the House Draw Fire, that's being administered by Clear Creek Conservation District. And then they're working through with Pheasants Forever, with the Weed and Pest, with other entities. It makes things so much more effective when we have that one point of contact that we're used to working with, they're used to our system, and then they're all local. They can, walk in and say, hey, here's what we did, here's what we need. We have the same thing going on in Southeast Wyoming. So it's very effective, but that's why it's Teton as the sponsor. They would be the one we would write the contract with.
Representative Ottman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director, just a question. I see where this is okay, the northeastern part of the state, southeastern part of the state, western part of the state, part of the central part of the state with Casper. But in Fremont County, and of course, that's where I live, and you know that, has the cheatgrass problem, is it non-existent? Has it been taken care of? Is it on the schedule? Are we waiting for weed and pest? I have a meeting with them this afternoon, so that's one of the reasons I'm asking. Thank you.
Director.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Ottman, thank you for asking. Fremont County is a little ahead of the game. We did a large project with them last year. Aaron has secured cooperation from the Forest Service, BLM, BIA, the tribes, private landowners, state and private lands, all along the Wind River front, starting just south of Du Bois and going clear down to Atlantic City. They've done other work in other areas. I don't know if you've had the opportunity, but I would encourage you to do it, to go look at some of those early treatment areas on the reservation just outside of Fort Washakie. They're very compelling. But we did a site visit up there 4 years ago, and you couldn't move without being in cheatgrass. We went back and looked at that area again after they removed the wild horses and treated cheatgrass, and it is stunning. It is absolutely beautiful. But Aaron Foster with Fremont County Weed and Pest does a tremendous job. I think you guys are ahead of the game.
Any follow-up,
Thank
Representative?
you. No, I'll talk with Aaron about that today and see if I can't get that site visit. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director, in the Western Wyoming project, we have a lot of migration corridors across there that run across the different counties, some pretty long migration corridors. It appears to me that if we don't treat the whole area, that we just recontaminate what we already treated. Is that fair to say, or?
Director.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Cooper, I was asked that same question at JAC by your senator from Park County. And it's correct. The animals are moving. These seeds can be distributed by animals by just sticking to their legs and such. But those migration routes are factored into the prioritization of where to treat. So if you're looking at treating west of Cody, or if you're looking at the one that's funded in here, that Absorica front, that looks at, okay, Carter Mountain, they're going to spill off of Carter Mountain down into the Grable drainage. That all gets treated. That way you're looking at the potential risk that you've described. And so that is part of how the analysis is done.
Senator, follow up.
Not really. Maybe we should just give all the deer and antelopes maps and tell them where not to go.
Mr. Chairman, we've done that for quite a while and it doesn't work. Yeah.
Any
We
additional
need a deer
questions?
watch.
Senator Landon.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. You know, I know that some of you probably do the same thing, but during quiet times, I think a lot about the work we did on travel, recreation, and wildlife this past interim. Representative Provenza was alongside, and we spent quite a bit of time studying some of the issues that we have going forward. And I think about our wildlife trust a lot. Director, my question is, what level do we stand? If you could remind us of that, what resources we have in a given year. We've been able to bolster, our wildlife trust fund. Really proud of that effort. But boy, you begin to talk about cheatgrass, and it's a huge issue in our state. Are we looking at a line item kind of like we do on fire anymore, Director? Maybe from a 30,000-foot view, where do we stand going forward?
Director.
Mr. Chairman, Senator, I spend a lot of time contemplating that same thing. I did make the comment to someone that if they wanted to do this in an appropriate manner, they just put another 200 million into the corpus and we could direct that toward that type of a ongoing effort. I don't know that you're ever going to get a line item for it. It would be appropriate, at least in the near term, to do something like that. Certainly, we have the resources to do it. At this point, there's a little over 200 million in the corpus of the trust. That generates, per the endowment model that was adopted last year, about $8 million a year. That $8 million, you can look at the scope of these 6 projects. That can be devoured by that. And you look at projects like the ongoing work in bags, you look at projects like One Canal. The total price tag on that Cody Canal project is over $5 million. There are a lot of needs in this state. We used to call it deferred maintenance. Every time we took over a ranch and I was called in to do the first thing, it was always deferred maintenance. Every time you're looking at, okay, the corrals haven't been fixed, the fences are down, you've got, boards missing in your barn. We're in that state. We are way behind. We've got deferred maintenance on a lot of things. But you can't, as critical as the invasive annual issue is, we've got to remember we have other critical issues out there too. If we're going to take care of mule deer, we got to look at woody draws. We've got to look at things that are concurrent with treatment for cheatgrass. You also have to restore your systems. I know people in Senator Crago's area are really intensely passionate about the loss of willows and chokecherry and plum and things that they're seeing depart from that system. And those are critical losses. If you're looking at sharp-tailed grouse, if you're looking at mule deer, if you're looking at swift fox, it doesn't matter. Those components are important in our system. So we're not where we need to be. We're a whole lot better off than many of our neighbors, and we're a whole lot better off than where we were 10 years ago. But we could do more if we had more. Does that answer your question, Senator?
Mr. Chairman, I think the director's been awake at night just like me. We could have been playing a game of cribbage or something. I really appreciate that, Director Budd, and obviously appreciate all the work that you do and Ms. Wasserberger's help. I wonder, Mr. Chairman, the reason I kind of teed this up, and we're not quite finished with the bill, and I didn't mean to interrupt, but as we finish the bill this morning, I wonder if we might not want to consider something a little bit bigger that we would take to this budget session. Whether that's a line item budget amendment proposal. But I don't think 200 million is enough for the work that we do in this, certainly going forward. If we're ever going to make a long-term impact on cheatgrass, for example, then we've got to put our money where our mouth is. I wonder if our select committee doesn't want to make a bigger recommendation than just this bill. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Director.
Mr. Chairman, I appreciate that. Let me point out, because I don't want it to be lost, that we did ask for a significant bump in our supplemental request this year. The 11 million that was approved by both the House and Senate last year and got stranded in the supplemental went back in. And in addition, the governor agreed to add 29 million specifically for fire impacted areas. That would be Red Canyon, some of the sleeper fire, some of those that were not funded in what we did this year. To date, I met with JAC. They didn't seem to be overly concerned about that. You never know. But there is that 40 million in the budget for this particular purpose now. As to the other, I'd have to probably defer to Talise, but I think that you're somewhat limited in what you can actually do. And I don't know that you could add to this bill in a way that became an appropriation or did something. That would be something maybe by resolution or otherwise that you as a committee may want to consider. But I wouldn't want to put this bill in jeopardy because of something that we can't do.
Senator, follow up.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. And Director Budd's exactly right. And I sure didn't mean to suggest that we would do anything with regard to this bill. Certainly want to make sure that it has a smooth glide. But, you know, in addition to that, I just wonder, even if it's individually brought, it just seems like sharing that message of, you know, you look, I think that the director told us last year that the state of New Mexico has copied our efforts, and boy, they rolled out quite a trust fund down there. As far as we've made it, I just think we need to go further. And when and where does that happen? Well, suggestions like that in a separate piece from this bill might be just bringing something that we can have a policy discussion on the floor of the House and the Senate. Just saying, you know, we've got to stay ahead of this. We've got to continue to invest in it. But that's really all I was doing, Mr. Chairman, is to have us thinking about that. So thank you.
Senator Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To add kind of to what Senator Landon has said there, this is probably not something we would be able to get all the way to the finish line on the first year, but it would start discussions. And especially if we earmark this specifically for cheatgrass control, I think it has some real merit and something that we could start building on the discussion of it anyway. And so as far as bringing the bill forward separate from this, I could probably support that, even though we probably wouldn't be successful this year.
So I would just comment, you know, I'm happy to talk about cheatgrass, but there's other invasives too. So if we were going to do something along those lines, I think we'd want to make it a little bit more broad. My part of the world, I mean, obviously we have cheatgrass as well, but we have other things up there too. And they're spreading quickly into other parts of the state too. So I think we'd want to keep that broad. At this point though, I think it'd have to be an individual bill, but we could all sign on. The members of this committee that were interested could definitely sign on to something. And I think that would be a fairly simple bill that could still get done if one of us was wanting to do that. So, Mr. Chairman, or excuse me, Director.
Mr. Chairman, I appreciate the chance to comment. And I appreciate especially your reminding us that it's not just cheatgrass. It's not just invasive annual grasses. What we've created is this ecological mess where you've got invasive annuals, which are water loving. They suck the water up right away early in the spring. Then they senesce and turn purple and they're fire. That then creates a subclimate that allows juniper and other invasives, some of which are native, to come in. And now what you've got, and I drive it almost every weekend between here and Glendo, and I look and think, oh, wow, if we get these 60-mile-an-hour winds, even in January, and one lightning strike, one careless match thrown out, one bad chainsaw, it'll go forever, because you've got the flash fuels to carry that fire, and then it gets into the junipers and others, which will carry it and spark it ahead. We have incredible ecological risk from fires that normally wouldn't have happened. So I would say it should be all invasives, and then let people on the ground determine what all needs to be done. The town of Hartville is another good example of this, where you've got cheatgrass and junipers right there on the hillside next to town. The wind right, you'll burn the whole town up. And that was a risk last year when we dealt with the Pleasant Valley fire. So it's a much bigger risk than I think a lot of people realize.
Senator Landon.
So, Mr. Chairman, thank you, and I appreciate the discussion. I think certainly great points made, and you're exactly right. If we wanted to bring a bill, it could certainly be an individual bill. I just wondered if during the course of the discussion on our budget, if it wouldn't be good timing to at least suggest to our friends in the Senate and the House that we keep going on this wildlife trust. And that could be, a budget amendment which would suggest that each of the next few years we should consider putting 5 or 10 million into that trust, so that generates an additional $1 million that we can put into some of these projects. We've got some really difficult situations out there across Wyoming in our environs and our wildlife populations, and I just hope that we don't all think, well, 200 million in our trust fund, that's good enough. That's been eroded the last 3 or 4 years, as we know. So just in spending ability. But that's really all I was suggesting, and I don't mean to bog us down this morning, but I try to think, sometimes at a 30,000-foot view, and I think it would at least get it on the radar screen, as Senator Cooper pointed out, and that could be valuable. So,
Senator Landon, I totally agree. I think you're going to find a lot of support on this committee. I mean, the amount of money it takes just to treat 1 acre, and we'll get, I was just going to ask the director to tell us that so we can share that with the public and with our colleagues when we get to the floor. But the money does not go very far when we start treating cheatgrass or other invasives. And then when we start doing additional treatments on top of that, takes a lot of money to make the kind of headway we are making right now. So could you give us a few of the statistics? I mean, I think obviously you always do when we get closer to session so that we can share that, but just for the purposes of today, what's it cost to treat 1 acre of cheatgrass or other invasives annual?
Mr. Chairman, right now it's about $60 to $70 an acre. And the way that we work with Weed and Pest and others, we encourage them to factor in a second treatment. So the allocations are usually about $120 an acre. That's probably not going to be enough for both treatments if you consider inflation. Where that may actually be okay is that the patent's going to wear off on Rejuvra, and that price may come down. But the price of helicopters will probably go up. So I think that's the kind of the balance that we've always felt when we looked at these was you're probably going to go down in one, up in the other. You're going to be at about that $60 an acre. Treating juniper, I mean, those can be even more per acre when you start mobilizing equipment. It's big equipment, as you could see on the slides. It's very effective, but per acre, it's pricey. And now, one thing I've always told people is, yeah, it's pricey. How much does it cost to treat a fire? How much does it cost to go back and rehabilitate after you've had the fire? And then this becomes pretty inexpensive. Because you look at the cost on some of these big fires, it quickly outweighs what we're spending to prevent them.
Representative Provenza.
Thank you. Director, I have a couple questions. I mean, first follow-up to that would be, can we just put the Rejuvra in the chemtrails and then we can just spray the weeds that way? But in all sincerity, I do think like some sort of memo for us to tell this overall picture of the cost of treatment versus the cost of fire. And then I think you maybe gave updates to JAC about this, but what the debate we had on the floor last year about doing fire mitigation for cheatgrass that dealt with loans versus grants, and the impact of both of those programs, I think will be something that we're going to need in the future. I don't see that argument kind of going away, but one of the appropriators today made a good argument that our fire season went from ending in September to being something that's 365 days a year. And I'm sure the costs of not doing anything are much greater. So being able to tell that story on the floor will be helpful for us if you can help us out with that.
Director.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Provenza, I'll be happy to get you more detailed numbers, but you're exactly right. And if you've watched the process with JAC relative to Forrester Norris and some of the concerns they have, you've got volunteer firemen are primarily what we're dealing with. And you can't go as long as these fires went and as far as they went. You hit a point where your manpower runs out because they've got to go to their job. They've got, other responsibilities. And I feel very strongly that the Forester has done a great job of laying out a model that will work to address a lot of those issues. But at the same time, you have the 365-day fire window now, which you are exactly right. We had a fire down here last year during the legislature that burned, I think, 20,000 acres west of Cheyenne in January or February. It's unheard of. And again, as I drive up the road to Glendo on the weekends, it's one mistake from that taking off. And that's one of the real nasty things about cheatgrass, Medusa head, ventonata. When they cure out, nothing touches them. So it's just fuel. And that fuel is still there today because we haven't had any snow to mash it down. We haven't had any rain. It's just standing there. Nothing's going to eat it. Nothing's going to haul it away. It's just waiting. And it's daunting when you do that, when you drive around the state as much as I do, to look out your window and go, ooh, wow, this could be bad. And as Senator Crago can tell you, yes, it can be incredibly bad. And it can happen really fast.
Any additional questions for the director, Senator Landon?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. And again, I really appreciate the director, and I know we can have some good discussion with our colleagues, but good conversation about invasive species and the fire danger and whatever. And I just don't want to ever erode the ability to take care of those waterways out there. We have a couple of iconic species in Wyoming that are in real trouble. And I'm talking about bighorn sheep and mule deer. We have a lot of issues that come into play for the work that Director Budd does, and I just hate to see that eroded by the ability to meet the cost of what has the inflationary figure. So anyway, I look forward to the days ahead, and just want to stand ready to represent the work that's done here as best we can. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Director.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to add to that. I'm not pleased to, but I will add to that. We are also losing our ability to generate matching funds. And one of the things we've prided ourselves on is that over 20 years, we've still retained a 5-to-1 match for everything we spend. That's not true when you look at invasive species. That's not as sexy as, if you will, as fish getting put back in the river or habitat for bighorn sheep. It's difficult to begin with. When you take the mill levy away, in the case you look at the Baggs Valley stuff, they generated significant funds and put them into these kind of projects. That's probably going to not be there anymore either. So we're losing our ability to generate matching funds at the same time inflation is working against us. So it is a little bit daunting to look ahead and say, what can we do relative to what we have done? It's probably, we're not gaining at all, I guess is what I would say.
Thank you for that. Any additional questions on the bill for the director? All right, I think we'll ask Talise if there's anything she needs to instruct us on.
Mr. Chairman, I don't have anything else to add, just if you have any questions on the bill language specifically, I guess.
Any questions for our good LSO attorney? All right. Thank you. All right, I think we'll move on to public comment unless the director has anything else. Closing comments? All right. Public comment? Good morning. Please introduce yourself.
Good morning, Senator Craigo, members of the committee. My name is Richard Garrett. I'm resident of Cheyenne. I've followed the WWNRT and the legislature's good work on this. Honestly, from the very beginning in 2019, I was lucky enough to be recognized by the board, by Bob's board as partner of the year. And so I do have a little bit of standing and a little bit of skin in the game, not as much as those people that have offered some of the leverage that Bob referenced. I just want to say that I think that the idea of increasing the trust's endowment, if you will, is a tremendous idea. It's very timely. Cost of a Ford F-150 has doubled since 2005. And it was only just a few years ago that we finally achieved the $200 million goal. And we found in the years since 2005 that not only do we need great work on behalf of habitat, natural resources, animals, everything, but we're also fighting a new battle too. So the resources are definitely needed. I believe that we are finding certain members of the Appropriations Committee sympathetic to some of these arguments, and perhaps there's ways to get this closer to the finish line. So I appreciate Senator Landon bringing it up, and I'll do everything I can, I promise, to help get this to the finish line. You know, the WWNRT was a rather radical idea in 2005. If you go back and look at the legislation, golly, the conversations on the floor took days, and there were amendments after amendments. I mean, the length of that bill is stunning. Here today, we find that it's not a radical idea anymore. In fact, other states are emulating what we did. We've got to regain our leadership on this subject, on this initiative. It really disappoints me to think that a state to our south, New Mexico, is somehow overachieving, and we're being left in the dust. So I really think that there's a lot of opportunity here. There's a lot of risk at not doing anything. And I really appreciate your work and coming down here to Cheyenne to further this effort, and your approval of certainly of the large project bill specific to the day's activities. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Garrett. Any questions for Mr. Garrett? All right,
you.
seeing none,
Thanks.
thank you. Then I think we have Mr. Moline online. Mr. Moline?
Mr. Chairman, Brett Moline, Wyoming Farm Bureau Federation. Can you hear me okay?
We can. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate this opportunity. Just to reiterate and to emphasize some of the information that's already presented. These weeds are getting to be a larger and larger problem. A former NRCS employee that worked up here in the Bighorn Basin, when he started 40 years ago, there was a little bit of downy brome, cheatgrass. Now it's very pervasive. It's everywhere. And I think one of the things I want to emphasize is we need to get a ecosystem-wide management tool, incorporate work with the BLM, Forest Service. My counterpart in Nevada has said that they have had tremendous success by grazing cheatgrass in the fall and the winter. That, so they're in these monoculture stands, it's nothing but cheatgrass. Livestock will eat it. They don't like it, but there's no choice. You have to supplement it, but they've had tremendous success by grazing it. And so I think with a combination of grazing, chemical usage, but it's going to have to be landscape wide. When one individual tries to do something, if the neighbors don't, you're not getting the results what you want. With that, Mr. Chairman, supporting this funding to help combat these weeds, I would take any questions the committee may have for me.
Thank you, Mr. Moline. Any questions for Mr. Moline from the committee? All right, seeing none, thanks for being with us today. We look forward to your support as we move to session. Anybody else, Heather, online? Okay. No one else in the room. With that, we'll close public comment. Representative Provenza.
I'd like to move the bill.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on the bill?
Question.
All right, no discussion. Question being called. Please call the roll on 26 LSO 157.
Senator Cooper,
Aye.
Senator Landon,
Aye.
Representative Ottman,
Aye.
Representative Provenza,
Aye.
Co-Chairman Williams excused, Chairman Krago.
Aye.
5 aye.
Thank you, Heather. With that, I think that, Director.
Mr. Chairman.
We still have 2.5 minutes, Mr. Chairman.
Is there anything you'd like to say, Representative
No.
Provenza? All right. With that, we'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you all for being here.